Welcome to Conversations with Carla. And today I have Figs O'Sullivan on, and he's a psychotherapist in San Francisco, California. One of the top, right?
Well, it's a weird thing for psychotherapists to say they're one of the top, but certainly my reputation online would lead people to believe I'm one of the top therapists in San Francisco.
Yes. I've been living in the marketers world for a long time,
Right.
and marketers have no problem saying they're the top.
Right.
And now, working, speaking with you as a therapist, very humble, right? Different energies.
I'm the least humble therapist you'll probably meet, which means I already don't have a lot of therapist friends. So if I was ever caught on some recording on Blab saying that I'm the best therapist in San Francisco, that I would have zero colleagues to go for lunch with. So I won't
Duly
say
noted. Okay.
Right.
Well, I'll shine the brilliance light on you. What I hear is you're amazing. Yelp definitely thinks you're great. So before we go in, the title of this is Stop Having the Same Fight Over and Over Again with Your Partner. So we're going to go deep into that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
But before we do that, some people here may not know who you are. So give us a little background on who you are. And one thing I will say is you were just on NPR, right?
Yeah, I was. I was on, I contributed to a segment on All Things Considered. I believe it's called, I hired a computer to be my life coach.
Yes.
And so it was basically assessing IBM Watson's, like IBM's artificial intelligence, ability to assess one's personality and the emotional content of one's writing and social media history. And so I actually had to take a look at the journalist correspondence with an ex-boyfriend and give my kind of assessment of the emotional content. And then my assessment was compared to IBM Watson's assessment. And then I had to assess IBM Watson, which seemed a little weird because it felt like I was the one more on trial, whether a therapist could be as good as a computer versus the other way around.
Right,
but it was really fun, and it's a new world we're moving into, right? With this artificial intelligence, being able to even attempt to read our emotions. It's pretty amazing.
It's crazy. We should put a link. I'll find that link and put it in here
awesome.
For people.
Yeah, I can give it to you too, from NPR One. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's awesome. So besides being on NPR, how did you get to that point? Because,
Well, I'm from Ireland, and as with many therapists, right? The main contribution to my life journey to become a therapist was, my dad's an alcoholic, grew up in a broken home, and so had enough pain and suffering in my formative years.
Yeah.
And managed to avoid feeling those feelings and sharing those feelings that by the time I got to my mid-30s, I couldn't continue to just be in my regular strategies to, be really competent and successful in business and yet never feel my own emotions. So I actually, when I came to America first, I became a stockbroker.
Wow.
Right. And I sold stocks and bonds and IPOs and all sorts of ridiculous things now that seem I don't particularly have an interest in, although I do. One of my guilty pleasures is following the market every day. But then I went and I lived at Esalen. I don't know if people are familiar with Esalen, but I've had enough of the whole. I just couldn't keep putting on a suit every morning, going to work here on the West Coast at 5:30 in the morning. So I packed up and I moved to Esalen in Big Sur, which is, the Harvard of the human potential movement.
It is. And I'll say Esalen is one of the most magical places on the planet. It's my go-to place. The energy in Big Sur alone is magical. And then to have the hot springs on the cliff of the ocean with organic food and other people wanting to do work. It's heaven on earth.
It is. Yeah. And yeah, the hot tubs and, showering right over the ocean every day. It was amazing. And all these amazing teachers that come in every week, every weekend. So living there, I was just exposed to so much wisdom, and so much expertise, and how to be more yourself, how to love yourself. And so my journey at first was all about helping myself. And it wasn't for quite an extensive chunk of time that I then started going, geez, I could be sharing this stuff with other people. And luckily I'm at a place today where I feel relatively well qualified through pain and suffering, and then collected some wisdom that I can guide people into being able to love themselves and make their relationship work, have some empathy for their partner, and, understand love and relationship.
Yeah, and you're a licensed marriage.
Oh yeah, I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. I went through the whole school thing and got the license. I'm part of the club, right? That I can market myself as a licensed professional, right?
Yeah, and really a lot of rules, right? I mean, that's the other thing.
There are loads of rules.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's so many rules. Yeah. To being a therapist, which are good. Like, don't get me wrong. Thank God, right? There are some rules.
Hells yeah.
With if you're going to meet people and hold people in these places that are so vulnerable, it's good that we have some code of ethics and there's some actual laws in place to keep the consumer, the client. I hate to use the word patient. I never think of my clients as patients, but it's really good there are laws there and ethical guidelines to keep people safe from being harmed.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so now you have a practice, and your website is therapywithfigs.com. Yes, .com. And you're in San Francisco, and who do you seek? Like who's your niche, if I speak marketing language?
I see couples.
Okay.
Couples of all ages, sexual orientation, Basically, I've become really well known. I'm a certified emotionally focused therapist, and emotionally focused therapy is the kind of A+ brand, model of trying to help couples.
Okay.
And so what would you call it? I've got some specialty expertise in using that model of helping people. And so mostly the weird thing from a marketing perspective, I don't actually, people just find me at this point, right? Which is amazing. But I do notice that of 80 to 90% of the people that call are looking for me for couples work.
Okay. And so they found their love.
They found, yeah.
And now they've come up against a wall or something, or the same fight.
Right. Yeah. So there's they've either gotten they've been fighting for a long time and something really bad has happened. It's a big fight or some injury to their bond, their emotional connection has happened.
Yeah.
And they've gotten a little scared. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it. Yeah. Or they could anticipate that happening and they go, let's try and nip this in the bud and go see someone before it becomes a big problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes I meet people just before they're getting married, right? Where they want to do the premarital preparation where they're, this is awesome. We love each other so much, right? They haven't actually gotten into anything terrible yet, right?
Right. Those childhood triggers haven't got triggered yet, really.
Exactly. They're still feeding each other ice cream, touching each other's little noses. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fun. I love to do that. As soon as I get in a relationship, I'd love to go to a therapist to get some ground rules and stuff.
Great.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do wish more people would kind of gain access to some of the these perspectives from the latest science and how our biology really works when we're in relationship, because having a little perspective on what, and knowing what to expect in relationship, what's normal, what you don't have to be overly worried about can really make a big difference for people.
One of my biggest ahas was when I learned it wasn't my partner's responsibility to make me happy, and it wasn't mine to make them happy.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very helpful, and it is a good segue to talk about then the kind of perspective that I do.
Yeah.
So this is the interesting thing, and again, Carla, please interrupt me. I am Irish, right? As an Irish person, you give me a microphone, I'll start singing.
Excellent. I love that.
Yeah. So the work I do, firstly, primarily, I'm an experiential psychotherapist. And what does that mean? That means I help people have experiences. That it's not enough to just explain things to people, that we have to actually take this wisdom that I could actually explain it to you, but I want you to have the experience of the truth of it in your own gut, in your own heart, in your throat. There are tears floating out your eyes because, oh my God, it's so true for me, right? So I try and help people reach their vulnerability.
Okay.
Now, I do bias certain types of experiences that I want to help people have. And those are experiences that are related to attachment. And what's attachment, right? Like attachment theory is the best theory we have of what love is. In short, love is an emotional bond.
Yes.
And we're all subject to the needs of attachment to be emotionally bonded with a primary other from the cradle to the grave. So,
say that one more time. Go back and say that.
So this is the most famous quote ever, by the way. Sorry, this is John Bowlby, the guy that came up with attachment theory. And he was actually a stuffy old English guy, kind of grew up in that kind of Downton Abbey world. But so he knew something about the pain of not being loved, right? He saw his mother maybe 3 or 4 hours a week, and he saw his dad once a week on Sundays, right? So he spent his whole life studying children's development and how the presence and the quality of presence of, for most of us, our mother, the primary caregiver, drives the quality that our healthy human development throughout our entire lifespan. So here's the quote from John Bowlby. We're all subject to the needs of attachment, and then in brackets, right, to be emotionally bonded with a primary other from the cradle to the grave. Cradle to the grave. Right. So to go back to what you, so here's like the slight variation then from what you said, like I'm not responsible for my partner, my partner's not responsible to make me happy, and they're not responsible to make me happy or whatever, right? Everyone's responsible for themselves, right? Yeah. And that's the classic Gestalt prayer. I be me, you be you. If we get along, that's great. And if we don't, it can't be helped, right?
Yeah.
So from an attachment perspective, that isn't quite true because we're hardwired biologically to be interdependent, right?
Yes.
You come into this world from the moment you're born, right? You pop out your mother's womb, right? Poof, I'm here. You're like, you arrive in this world going, where are you?
Yes.
You're like, you have to be there for me. You, primary other that's supposed to meet my emotional needs. Where are you? And if you're not there, I'm going to flip out. My whole entire body over millions of years has been organized, right?
Yep.
To flip out if there isn't a good enough other that's going to love me, that I can rely on. They're physically going to take care of me, and emotionally I'm enough for them, right? So,
yeah.
We, on one hand, for sure, we have to, this is what's complicated and confusing in a relationship. For sure, there's some like importance to being aware and having some self-responsibility over one's feelings.
Yes.
Within this container and understanding that we absolutely need each other, right?
Yeah.
It is because we're so important to each other, there is no way that I or you are not going to flip out in some way if it looks like, on one hand, A, I'm not there for you. You can't rely on me to be there for you. Or B, you're not enough for me. You keep disappointing me, right? Yeah. So they're like kind of abbreviated versions of each side of the spectrum, right? Like of like, let's say an attachment, the pain of being in love. On the left, on one end of the spectrum is what is technically referred to as being anxiously attached. And those people have more access to the pain of fear of being abandoned.
Yeah.
That I can't rely on someone being there. And on the other end of the spectrum, there are people that are more worried that they're going to be rejected for not being good enough, right? So what I help people do over time is actually come to accept and surrender to, because it's true, that we need each other, right? There's nothing wrong with needing each other, right? It doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you needy, and it doesn't make you powerless and bad to want to be enough for your partner. So it's okay to have some part of you that's going to rely on your partner to be there. And it's okay to really, really want your partner to tell you you're enough for me.
Yes.
You're not a disappointment to me. So, anyway.
Just those, right? That like, you're enough for me. Like just saying that, like, if you heard that every single day, and like felt it, like not just heard it, but like it met that inside. Yeah,
it's huge, right? It's huge to hear that. And and this is the interesting thing, right? So we all have, each one of us has a raw spot inside, right? Well, this is again the idea, right? That we all have a vulnerability inside us, right? That is, specific to us. I mean, there's some general patterns in the human experience, right? But so typically 70 to 80% of couples, one person in emotionally focused therapy, let's say they come into my office and it becomes pretty clear in the first 20 minutes that one person's who we refer to as the emotional pursuer. They're pursuing for more and more closeness. Right? They can never get enough. They can't get close enough to their partner, right? I always want more of your time. I want to know I'm a priority to you. I want to know I'm special. Do you even care about me? How come you never take me on dates anymore? Right? There's certain, like, where did you go? Is everything okay with you? They're always like, I need to know you're here.
Yeah.
Right? And then their partner strolls in, usually a little slower. And we refer to that person as the emotional withdrawer. They're like, great, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to find out again about all the ways you're disappointed in me. Right? And that person does not withdraw from emotional closeness, right? From connection with their partner because they don't want it, even though that's what it may look like. And it may even be what they think themselves at first, right? That it looks like to their partner that they're withdrawing because they don't actually want to be close to them. Deep down inside, I've never met an emotional withdrawer that isn't withdrawing because it hurts. It hurts to feel like I'm constantly a disappointment. It hurts to feel that me being me is not going to be enough for you.
Yeah.
Right? So in terms of this, the title then, like, stop having the same fight over and over again. The way I would see it, right, is we always have to address what's happening between us as a couple on the level of our emotional bond, right? So, you see all those lists, like the 10 reasons that couples fight or 10 reasons why like marriages end, right? Sex, money, I don't even know what, like, household cleaning, I don't know. Overworking, all those like typical reasons that people think of.
Yeah.
I would look at it more as, right, there's only two different types of conflicts couples get into. One category is a conflict over content, right, which is, for example, money. You spend too much money. Right. Wow. Why can't you lighten up a little? Right. One person is like, you spend too much money. Wow. Are you always going to be so controlling? Right.
Yeah.
But people think they're continuing to fight about money when unbeknownst to them, undercover, right, down deep in their guts, the fight has stopped being about money and it started being about their emotional connection.
Yes.
Right. One person has started to feel, if you really love me, right, if you were really there for me, you wouldn't be criticizing me right now, right? And then the way they respond when they're not feeling loved and cared for, the way they then react touches their partner in their, well, if you really love me, I wouldn't have to be so alone with looking after the money. And then the way they react to defend themselves re-triggers the first person.
Yes.
So all couples then end up getting into their own version of what we refer to, again, in emotionally focused therapy, this type of couples therapy I do. They get into what we refer to as a negative interactionary cycle.
Okay.
The more one person hurts and then reacts to try not to feel that hurt again, they inadvertently hurt the other person, and then they react. Right. And it's just like, one of my favorite things a client's ever called it was, it's a shit show.
Yeah.
It just turns into, is it okay I curse?
Oh, hell yeah. I cuss all the time.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Okay. So yeah, it just turns into this really, really painful dance of disconnection that people don't know how to get out of, right? And you know what the really tough part is, Carla?
No. Well, there's a couple.
So, see, here's the thing, right? That it doesn't. So here's what I learned, like from all that time at Esalen and learning nonviolent communication and how to be my best self, and how to like be loving and empathic. All of us, in the midst of feeling like your primary partner, the person you turn to for your emotional needs to be met, when it looks like they're not there and or they're disappointed in you, the parts of your brain that have this store of wisdom and how to be empathic and how to communicate, how to put words in the right order so that you're being self-responsible, they will not be available. That part of your brain is not the one that's driving the ship, right?
That's right.
The part of your brain that's driving the ship at that point is your reptilian brain, your amygdala, and your hypothalamus is firing, right? Your limbic system is like going bananas, right?
Yep.
You're not going to be able to be this best self you're longing to be and or have been working to be through all your self-development work. Right?
Absolutely. I know that well.
Right. Yeah. So so this is one of the first things. Can you give yourself a break? Right. When you get into a fight, right? The fights last longer when we can't give ourselves a break, give ourselves an opportunity to repair, and we can't give our partner an opportunity to repair. Everybody's going to behave badly when they're fighting.
Yes.
I've actually been thinking of a video, a vlog, right? I've never actually done any vlogging, but I was thinking of the title, like being, I am an asshole when I fight with my wife. Because I am, right? Yeah. I mean, hopefully at this stage of being a relative, like specialist or expert at this stuff, I'm only an asshole for a couple of minutes. But I do a lot of blaming. You know what I mean? When I feel alone in the world, my initial response is like, you did this to me. Yeah, where were you? Right?
Exactly.
Which, of course, my wife gets hurt and then she punishes me, right? She withdraws and withholds. Of course, so now my blaming, here I did this like when I was hurting, and now I'd make things worse for myself.
Yeah. I always say, like, we go to our youngest selves. Like, what do you believe in that? Like, like our first wounding, like we're either 2 or 7, but like when we're fighting, like that's where we go. And then we still use those strategies, right? Like depending on what worked for you as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the interesting thing is it would be wonderful if we actually could be in the actual unadulterated, pure pain of the child. I'm just feeling alone and sad, right? And or I'm feeling powerless, that I don't seem to be enough for you, the person I want to be enough for. That'd be brilliant.
Because that stops everything. That would stop everything.
Right. It would stop everything. So there's a couple of things, right? But what we normally do is we move into strategy to protect those vulnerable parts. And those strategies, we absolutely have to develop those strategies to compensate for the love we weren't getting when we were kids, right? If we're not bad, let's say I'm a blamer, right? When I feel alone, I do a little blaming, right? Or a lot. my wife was telling you, right? So I did a lot of blaming, right? Look, I'm not a blamer because I am actually an asshole. It's like, no, this is the way I compensated. This is the way I responded in protest to not feeling met and loved. And no matter who you are, no matter how brilliant you feel your childhood was, right? Nobody escapes childhood without having a series of experiences of feeling abandoned or rejected. Yeah. It may not be the most traumatic version of it ever, but your organism felt like, Mom, where are you? I was crying and you went to the loo, right? It's like, exactly. Oh my God, why are you in such a bad mood? Isn't it? Why are you not happy with me? So anyway, you don't have to remember some dreadful, trauma. And the good news is just what?
No, go ahead. I'm
okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go.
You go. Go on.
Over and out.
Go on, yeah.
My story for that when I'm working with people, because I like to talk about childhood stuff too and traumas. And some people had a fucking horrible childhood, like beyond it. Like I don't even understand how they still could be alive and order coffee at Starbucks. Like it blows my fucking mind. And then, but to you, the little you, if you didn't get ice cream before you went to bed, it's like my needs never get met. You hate me. And then at the end of the day, I always get the story from the ice cream thing. So, like you said, like it doesn't matter where that gets imprinted.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's for sure, and there's definitely, the more trauma. Right, the more trauma, the more hard it's going to be to do the work. Right, because this present moment, it'll be colored by big moments from the past that look similar. But what I tell people, it also means it's even more important to do the work. But here's the good news. We don't actually need to go back to your childhood and resolve things with your mom or your dad, right? That in a relationship, right, you actually have the perfect fertile soil between you and your spouse or your partner, right?
Yep.
To actually create the healing circumstances that your organism is desperately trying to move towards, right? So that's the good news. I always one of the things I tell couples, and I always tell them they can kick me if they want, right? Because on the one hand, it's terrible to be in this moment of conflict and be stuck and you don't know what to do. Yeah. And so people are coming to see me because they're in pain and suffering. And it is true that it's also an unbelievable opportunity, that this horrible moment of pain could actually be this doorway. You're standing on the threshold to actually getting the love that you've been longing for all your life.
Yeah.
If we can have these particular set of experiences in the room, right, guided by this attachment theory and systems theory. So, that's what I try and help people do.
So if someone doesn't have access to go to a therapist, like someone's fighting, and it's like, so we're having the same fight. They never put the fucking dishes away. I'm so sick of it. Right. What is the first thing that you would suggest or recommend to put the swords down?
Well, so the very first thing, you mean in the heat of battle?
Well, I mean,
or you mean a resource that they could turn to right now? I'm not going to go see a therapist. 1, I don't have the money. 2, it's too stigmatizing, and or 3, whatever. I'm just not going to take the time.
Yeah, both. I guess both. Well,
I would read. There's a book I could recommend to people.
Okay.
Right. So the woman that came up with emotionally focused therapy, right? One of my teachers her name is Sue Johnson, and she's written a couple of books. Hold Me Tight is the name of the book that is kind of a DIY version of what I do in the room for people. It's like a psychoeducation version of emotionally focused therapy for lay people. I'd read the book, right?
Yeah.
But just to be clear, the inside joke with, emotionally focused therapists is the book should have two titles. One for the emotional pursuer, right? The person that feels the partner doesn't care about them. Hold me tight's perfect. But for the emotional withdrawer, the one that's like, geez, will my partner ever be happy with me? Right?
Yeah.
Or he ever going to be happy with me? Faux pas. Should be called Hold Me Later.
Mm-hmm.
Just look, hey, I want to be close to you, but not now. Right. So reading the book would be great, but again, there's not really a huge quick fix. The first and most important step that I have to help couples get to, individuals and couples together, is all roads lead through, we're on the same team fighting a common enemy, right? And this is what we were talking about earlier. What's the common enemy? There's a system that we get stuck in together, not because you're bad or I'm bad, but because our connection matters so much. When that connection is threatened, right, we both get scared. Wow, look at this monstrous creation that I am 50% of and you're 50% of, and look at the way we're suffering together. That's it, right? There's no point, all this experiential stuff, and you see therapists making people cry their eyes out and get to their vulnerable child. It's actually really dangerous in a couple before we get people on the same team fighting a common enemy to start helping somebody start accessing, and you're not there for me and you don't care for me, because the other person is hurting and feeling blamed, and they might receive this vulnerability with even more defensiveness or blaming, right, or anger.
Absolutely.
So the first thing and the hardest part of the journey, and this is I always tell couples, there's three parts of the journey, right? And so imagine I'm your Sherpa, right? Like we're climbing a mountain and I'm your guide. Right? Yep. The first third of the journey, this is what the slope looks like. It is crazy steep, right? If couples fall off, this is where they fall off. It's the very first third of the journey, right? Because it's really hard to get on the same team to fight this common enemy, that it's not you're bad, I'm bad. It's just that we love each other so much. That's the only thing happening. Move along, folks. Nothing to see here. Just two people who love each other got scared for a moment. Right. Don't remember.
So when you say that, fighting the common, so is the enemy fear? Is the enemy what is the common enemy?
The enemy is the system we create together that we are now we're too involved, immersed actors in a drama that we're not able to step outside the system and see these two actors, to see the whole scene. We can't, let's say it was a scene in a movie, we can't get behind the movie, the camera, and go, oh my God, would you look at those two poor devils, right? Look at them. It's so painful for both of them. Oh, they're stuck. One of them just wants to know the other person cares, and the other person just wants to know they're enough for them, and they're so stuck in the drama they can't see that who are they fighting with? They're just fighting someone who loves them and cares about them. Right. So that's the first step, that they can just see, because that literally starts to de-escalate the situation. Right?
Yeah.
If we can see the system that we are both in together.
Yeah. I'm on your team.
I'm on your team. Right. I'm on your team. This has been terrible for both of us. We got stuck again. What a bummer. And then, so that's the first part, right? And why did we get stuck together? Right? Why did we get stuck together? It seemed at first, I'll tell you why we get stuck together, because you're being mean, right? And then the other person, well, hello, that's an interesting perspective. I'll tell you why you got stuck together, because you're being dramatic, right? So that's going nowhere, right? Fast.
Right.
There's no way of resolving that. When actually we want to get the people, the second step, we want to help the people get, what, why I respond being looks like to you, I'm being mean, because I'm hurting inside, because I just long to know I'm cared for by you. And I got scared. I wasn't. Right. And on the other side, hey, the way I look like I was being dramatic. Well, for a moment, it looked like you were so disappointed in me that I was never going to be enough, and I felt powerless. Why do we feel those vulnerable feelings? Because we're so important to each other.
So in your experience, how often can someone even say, I was feeling powerless? Like, when does that come to their awareness? Because I've done a lot of motherfucking work and went to high, I did all the levels. And then when I'm in it, when I'm single now, but when I was in a partnership and working through this stuff, like it was like you said, I was in my amygdala, I was in my emotions. Like I didn't even know why I was responding. Right. Even when she would be like, "Why are you doing this?" I don't know.
Sure,
because
her. Yeah, well, that's it. I love that you said that, right? And this is like, so look, it's the being able to get to your vulnerability is always a retroactive process. On some level, it's always backward looking. Like, and I want to be clear, this is something I've never actually been able to explain this to people, that it sticks, right? If there is like, I always try and tell couples, don't waste your time trying not to fight. After you've had a fight, right? Because you're not going to be able to get out of the fight immediately, right? But after let's say a couple of beats of time, whether that's 1 minute for you or 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
Then you want to be able to like, whoa, what just happened? What happened for me? What happened for the other person? What did we create together?
Yeah, I think that is brilliant. At least, I mean, well, you're welcome.
Right.
That's why you get paid the big bucks. Mm. And that's why you are an NPR or was on NPR.
Right.
But I think that just reminds me of something that was actually said in my relationship that might help other people who are watching this. It's, let me have my reaction and then you could have yours. Because I would go to the, I want to fix it. You're in pain. Let me fix it.
Sure.
I try not to fight. Like I'm not a fighter. I'm but I love how you said have the fight, and it's like just get it out, as long as you're not attacking. Like there's healthy ways to express your feelings and being in disagreement, and that's actually healthy, right? Like to share what's happening.
Absolutely.
But then later, let's have a conversation of what happened. Right.
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, and let's to be clear about the later is, we just want to see that we're in a system together, and it happens because we're feeling vulnerable as soon as possible. That I'm feeling vulnerable, the other person's feeling vulnerable, and that's why I've been acting the way I am, and that's why you've been acting the way you are. And that's actually why we've gotten stuck together and we can't get out of it. If you could do that, like within 2 seconds, brilliant, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think, just because of the way we're hardwired biologically, that's realistic for most people. But so most of the pain that couples, the vast majority of the pain couples are in relationship could be eliminated by just being able to shift their perspective of what it means to get in like a fight with each other.
Yeah.
Does it mean there's something wrong with me? There's something wrong with you? There's something wrong with us? Or is it, oh my God, are we important to each other or what? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Damn, look what we just did for the last hour, right? No, of course, like, look, if people are hitting each other or there's a threat of hitting each other, then the person hitting someone needs to go to work on their anger and be able to contain their reactivity. The person getting hit needs to be able to look after themselves and have resources and a plan, a safety plan.
Yeah.
People shouldn't be working on this stuff together until there is a certain level of safety in their relationship. So that's really important to make clear. This isn't, if your conflicts are escalating to the point of physical violence, then I wouldn't be trying to.
Right.
Well, let's take a look at what happened between us here. Right? It's not. I don't mean to be flippant about that, but it's not recommended.
No.
That people try and work in it together if that's what's happening.
Right. I was gonna say, but if it's not, or even I guess emotional manipulation, right? I mean, not. I mean,
Yeah.
what's your opinion on that? I mean, because there's a scale, right? There are scales of like healthy way to respond and self-awareness and you know, your emotional intelligence.
Right.
Like
again, yeah. Look, if you have an expectation. If you have an expectation of your partner that they're going to play nice in an argument or a fight, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Right? Guaranteed. If you have an expectation of yourself that you're going to play nice in a fight every time or an argument, right, you're going to be terribly disappointed in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So I just don't believe there are any people out there in the world. Look, there might be exceptions. There really are sociopaths and narcissists, whatever, like extreme.
Right. Sure.
But like, you know, 99.99999% of the world, they just want to feel connected. They want to feel safely emotionally bonded with their partner. Why? Because it's the best comfort Mother Nature offered us as we were born in this world and have to stroll through this life, not exactly sure what it's all about.
Yeah.
Right? So at least we could be held tightly by another. Right? So therein also lies the reason why it's scary when it looks like that bond is threatened. Right? So the first thing is really getting that perspective. So here am I saying that, but if a couple actually believe that themselves, right, that when we fight, it's just because we love each other so much, right? When I'm mean, it's just because I'm scared.
Yeah.
When you look like you're shut down and don't care, it's just because you feel really hurt that I'm disappointed in you. That changes everything.
Everything.
It's huge. It sounds so small and simple on one level, right? But it makes such a profound difference. And so helping people get to that place where they're in the middle of a fight, and then we take them from a fight where that seems like the furthest thing from true. It's
right.
Like, this is war, right? I cannot see a way out of this stuck moment between us, to actually, I've just been fighting with someone that loves me and I love them, and this is really sad for us. Wow. Right? There's all of a sudden all sorts of new possibilities, right? We could reach out safely to each other because now we're not in the room with another, like, you know, reptile, alligator, crocodile or something, right?
Absolutely.
You know? And we actually might be able to receive our partner and love, soothe, and comfort each other. Right? So, yeah.
So the takeaway so far, what I've heard, and I wasn't keeping notes, so I might forget one. So chime in. But one is when you're in a relationship with someone, we're going to get triggered and we're going to have disagreements and we're going to have fights, and that's okay.
Right. In fact, they are going to happen because you're really important to each other. Right.
And that's number two, is not only is it okay, is that they're happening because of the intimacy, like what we care, like you said, we care so much about them.
You need each other.
We need each other.
You're each other's emotional rock of security in the world.
So I have a question for you. What is your opinion, being the expert, on jealousy, and how far? Because, for example, like I think jealousy is actually healthy a little bit. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But I know, people who are like in polyamorous relationships and that sort of stuff. And it blows my mind. And like my school of thought's like either you're really screwed up or you're super healthy.
Sure.
And and it's not judging. Like I have dear friends in those relationships and I admire them.
Me too. Yeah.
I can't do that. Like that's not me.
Totally.
So what is your, maybe, who's to say? I'm not going to box me in.
You never know.
You never know.
Tomorrow and you'll be like,
Yeah, maybe I'll have multiple.
Hey,
I'm open. But what is your opinion on jealousy? And then when people act out on that and healthy jealousy versus unhealthy, well, I'm judging. So what are
Right. Well, yeah, I understand the words are hard to use, but like, find the right words. But look, because again, I said, because emotional connection is so important, it's not realistic to expect yourself or another not to feel threatened, right?
Right.
If the person you long to be close to or to be important to or be enough for, the message you're receiving back from the world is, oh my God, I'm not a priority, I'm not special, or I'm not enough for them. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less spiritually developed to feel threatened. And in fact, the more you're going to be in denial of that is an actual quintessential, that's an essential part of who you are. It's just how you're built. Don't try and fight your biology, right? It's just your biology. You're not going to overcome it, right?
Right.
So you're going so the more you try and resist it and you tell yourself, my God, I'm supposed to be a kind of person that doesn't feel jealous, then weirdly enough, that's going to make you act even worse. Because now not only are you dealing with the pain of feeling not loved or not enough, but now you're dealing with your own shame, your own judgment of your own behavior. And now you've taken the pain of not feeling loved or not feeling enough and multiplied it by 10. So now you're completely overwhelmed. So God knows what you're capable of, right?
Right.
Now you're like going to arrive at the other person's house with your hair all crazy and like, come out here, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like we get overwhelmed as human beings. So can you be nice to yourself? It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be threatened, right? And can you have that kind of empathy and compassion for another? Yes. Let me just say one thing about polyamory. As far as I'm concerned, it's a total valid spiritual path, right? And it's, in the sense that when people go up into a cave and they sit on their own to try and get to discover themselves, they're actually purposely choosing to have some discomfort and to sit with it. So polyamory, to actually walk yourself into even more feelings of not enoughness, right? And even more feelings of not being a priority for your partner.
Right.
Great, you're going to get to know those parts of yourself really well. But to actually think you're going to overcome them, I'd be much more worried for the person that is truly, in their minds, overcome all feelings of not being enough or all feelings of not being cared for or not being special, like that those things don't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I'd have to question if you're still kind of participating with the rest of us humans. Because like I said, it's just our biology.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, that's all I would say.
Well, thanks for unpacking that and talking about that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Anyone that asks me my opinion, just be careful because I told you, I'll just keep talking.
Excellent. So anybody who's on here, if you want to hop on and ask any questions, the seat is unlocked. So if you're just joining, Figs is what title do you like to use for yourself?
Well, relationship expert and licensed marriage family therapist, couples therapist. I don't know.
Great. So if you have a question for our relationship expert about your relationship currently or in the past, feel free to jump in. And if not, we'll just keep talking for a little bit. I do have to book Jet here in a bit. And you do too, right? You have clients?
Yeah, I have clients.
Yeah. Of course.
Got to do the work, not just talk about it.
Indeed,
and I do want to emphasize, by the way, when I say that is a really important point, right? Kind of like, so in the Buddhist philosophy, let's say what we're doing right now, right, is a finger pointing at the moon, right? So I'm actually describing this process that really, really helps people feel safe and love and feel, really yummy bondedness with their partner.
Yeah.
But talking about it's not enough, right?
Yes.
I wish talking about it was enough, right? Just go buy a book. Don't be paying your money to me, right? Right. But we actually have to have the experiences of moving from being in a fight to seeing we're in it together. And then we have to have the experience of then reaching out once it is safe from our vulnerability and being received and loved and met and taking that in.
Yes.
So I don't know of a better way to help people move from those are experiences that I'm not that familiar with or are very hard to get to for me or for us right now in a relationship, other than doing it with someone like me. And I want to be clear, I'm not the only emotionally focused therapist in the world. Like, there are people like locally, right, and are attachment focused and psychotherapists in the world that can help people do that kind of work. But yeah, we got to do it. Can't just talk about it.
Absolutely. That's how we learn.
That's how we learn, experientially, right? And then so all I really do then is just try and guide people to those places and hold them in the places that they normally would either jet out of in protests or jet out of in shutting down. Like try and love them up and help them be there. Which, to your point, when do you had asked earlier, but I'm always in my reactivity when that stuff comes up. So how do we help people get to those vulnerable places when actually their instinct is to be reactive?
Yeah.
I love them. Like the number one intervention, and this is something I steal from Sue Johnson, an expression I heard her say is the number one intervention that I use is relentless empathy. I don't challenge people, right? There's no can you see what you're doing? Look at what you're doing to this relationship, right? That doesn't work with people. They just get even more defensive, right?
Yeah.
Even more guarded. I just love them. Get curious about them and love them up, right?
Yeah.
That helps people start to feel maybe it's safe. Maybe I don't have to be so guarded and defended, and I can actually feel vulnerable with you. And then if we get to something new, then I can help them share that something new with their partner.
Yeah.
Right.
You said one word that I use all the time, which is curiosity. When we shift from anything, whether it's judgment to curiosity, everything changes. Your lenses change. Your emotions change. Love, gratitude, and curiosity, those three things will change you instantly.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Being curious about yourself, that's huge, right? Yeah. Can I actually be curious about my own emotional process, right? Can I be curious about another's? And then can I be curious about the system that I create with another?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and sometimes we can't. That's the only thing I say.
Right.
That sometimes,
sometimes no.
Right? But then we just have to remember, whoa, what just happened that 30 minutes that I couldn't be curious, right? That's okay.
Yes. We can always go back there.
Exactly. Don't beat yourself up. Don't beat your partner up. Well, literally.
Right.
Figuratively. No beating people up.
No. Or yourself.
Or yourself. Exactly.
Yeah.
So well, that was fun.
That was fun. So I'm gonna stop recording. So thank you everybody who's watching the replay. Follow me. Follow Figs. You could find him at Figs.
Therapywithfigs.com.
Therapywithfigs.com. So thank you again, and have a beautiful night.
Thank you.